Hey Beans, and welcome to Conspiracy Outside. So, we're going to be going through all of the messages in a bottle that we've gotten over the last few weeks, and I'm going to be analyzing all of them and explaining to you just exactly what I think the next animal in Animal Jam will be, and why I think it will be that. And there's some pretty good evidence provided by Animal Jam itself. So I promise, by the end of this video, you will be convinced. Let's get started. So the first message in a bottle we got a while ago was this one, and it tells us that the Phantom Fortress has stopped moving. And it comes with this Phantom prison door thing. So this may not seem that significant at first, but then you think about the nature of the Phantom Fortress. And the Phantom Fortress moves around and spreads pollution wherever it goes. And you know how we always say, oh, we have to stop the Phantom Fortress? Well, I assume that means when we fight the Phantoms for a little bit, their Phantom Fortress stops moving. So basically, I think we can assume from this that somebody has gotten onto the Phantom Fortress and is fighting those Phantom Beans, and that's why the Phantom Fortress has stopped. And the gift is not that significant, it just shows us that there is a prison door, and it's just kind of a cool little item. The next one says, the Phantoms just posted twice as many guards outside our cells. They seem more agitated than usual. This would make sense if there was some sort of attack on the Phantom Fortress, right? I mean, we'd get agitated Phantoms. This message also gives us some cool indirect information that we can infer. You see, if there's a huge battle going on, and they can spare enough men to go guard this prison, it means that they must be doing pretty well in the battle, and they're probably gonna win it because, you know, they don't need everyone up there fighting. They can still play a lot of defense. And it makes sense that the prize is one of the guards in a statue. Next up, it says that this morning we saw a very powerful Phantom speaking to the guards. It was one of the meanest Phantoms we've ever seen. This is where things get really complicated and my old theories start to fall apart. They all really made sense until this message, and this message really screws them up, and later on they'll be screwed up even more, but that's farther down the line. So we can assume that this is the Phantom King, right? He's the most powerful Phantom, that would make sense. But now we have a problem. Before I had concluded that the prisoners were probably Peck, Zeus, and Mira. But if these are the prisoners, then well, Peck would already know who the Phantom King was, and wouldn't give such a vague description. And I'd assume Mira and Zeus know who the Phantom King is. I mean, they're like all-ruling, all-knowing, like gods. They'd probably know who their greatest enemy was. So it seems like either this isn't the Phantom King, or this isn't those three. And if it's not the Phantom King, then what is it? Well, I would speculate that it's some sort of new Phantom race that they're creating to try and aid in the fight. Because right now we just have Proto-Phantoms that you see in Bittersweets, regular Phantoms that you see in Adventures, and then the King Phantom. But there's nothing in between regular Phantoms and the King Phantom. So maybe for this sort of battle that's going on, they're creating this new race of Phantoms that's very powerful, but isn't quite the King Phantom. But there's another possibility. Maybe it's not Peck, Mira, and Zeus. And this is where the big conspiracy starts. So, if it wasn't Peck, Mira, or Zeus, then there are two possibilities. One, it could be the Phantom King, and they just wouldn't know that it was the Phantom King. It would just seem like a very powerful Phantom. Or two, it could still be one of those really powerful Phantoms, but it'd be more likely that it was the Phantom King if it was someone else, which I'm beginning to think it is. And you'll see why in the next few messages. The gift that comes with this is the right Phantom Guard statue, just the compliment to the left, not a big giveaway hint kind of thing. The next one says, the guards just left their post in a hurry. It's now completely silent outside of our cells. So before, the Phantoms were winning this battle, so they could spare guards to go guard the prisoners, but now all of a sudden, they might be losing the battle because they have to take all of their guards and move them to the front lines to fight. So there's obviously something going on, and the Phantoms are having a hard time defeating whatever enemies showed up. Now, the other theory that went through my head is that maybe this was some sort of system malfunction. It didn't necessarily have to be that, you know, somebody was fighting them. Maybe the ship just stopped for some mechanical reason. But the fact that they're taking their guards and sending them to the front tells me that this isn't true anymore. And it does really seem like somebody is attacking the Phantom Fortress when these messages are being sent. And this sets up for a big new storyline. Since there are no guards, it's time to escape, right? Well, that's what the next message is about. But before we move on to that, what's very interesting is this comes with a spinning phantom light, which I guess we can assume is an alarm, which would make sense because it would mean that there was some sort of alarm or event that caused the Phantoms to move, but it doesn't make any specific mention of an alarm. Now, this next message is where things start to get very intense. So it reads, we don't think anyone is coming to help us. This is bod. That's not a typo. They did that on purpose multiple times throughout Animal Jam, and I'll show you at the end of this video. It looks like we'll have to try and find our own way out. So, as you can see, they're beginning to realize they're all alone, and no one's really going to come to help them, because we have no idea where they are. We really just can't know where they are, because they're not telling us where they are, and they don't even probably know where they are. They're just on some sort of weird phantom ship or fortress. The gift also matches this, because it is a phantom lantern, which would make sense if they were trapped on some sort of like dark phantom fortress, and they had to like sneak out using a phantom lantern. So, this seems like a very sneaky message overall, but not that much information comes with it. But it leads into the next one, where there is a lot of new information. This one reads, the Phantoms just threw another animal into our cell. He kind of looks like us, but there's something weird about him. So let's speculate for a little bit. Let's say it was Peck, Mira, and Zeus. Well, let's say Zeus is a toucan, which is already a speculation. Then Mira and Zeus, so 2/3 of the animals are birds. So then maybe it could be the new ostrich that they threw in, but that doesn't make sense because it doesn't look like Peck, and they say us, and we don't even know that Zeosin's a toucan. So that's a very, very risky conclusion. Now the other conclusion is a bit more complicated, and will only really make sense after we go to the next one. So let's skip ahead a little bit, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Now the gift that comes with this is the prison wall marks. There have been a lot of theories about this, and people say, it looks like these are made with claws, and the animals that we're speculating about need to have claws, but I think that it could easily have just been some sort of like marker or like thing that they drew with. I mean, it's Animal Jam. They probably use like fun cutouts from the Daily Explorer to paste their prison wall marks onto the wall. I mean, they're not gonna have like wolves scratching into the claw. They're not gonna have wolves scratching with their claws into walls to try and mark the days that they've been in prison. Like, that's a little graphic for Animal Jam, so I don't think that that is a concrete piece of evidence. But let's move on to the most recent message in a bottle that is very, very important and came out the day I'm recording this and was so cool that it inspired me to go outside in the frigid cold and record this video. It reads, the new prisoner was starting to tell us his plan when an alarm went off. Now it feels like the prison is trying to move again. Now, there are a few important things about this. First of all, the fact that they got a prisoner and also that the Phantoms were able to keep moving tells us that the Phantoms have probably won whatever battle they were fighting at the beginning of these messages. But the big hint is in the item that comes with it, the escape plans. It doesn't look like much at first. You could probably speculate, oh, this looks kind of like a boat. But if you pay very close attention to the background, it's blue. Sure, but you could also say, Julian, maybe that's the sky, and it's the Phantom Fortress floating around in the sky. But then you look really close, and you see there are little waves on it, which means that they're on water somewhere. And the Phantom Fortress doesn't go on water. So this probably isn't even the Phantom Fortress. And now, we get into some very, very, very good conspiracy beans. Let's think about this. What animal would be on water? Well, we don't know. We don't know what this new animal is right now, because we don't know that it's Peck, Zeus, or Mira, so it's gotta be some sort of weird mystery animal that we probably have never seen before, or that has left Jamaa. So what animal has left Jamaa recently? That would be the goats. And if you remember, when the goats left, they left a message that said, you know, something like, we're taking a boat. I forget what the actual rhyme was, but it was just like a clever little poem that rhymed. And at first everyone was like, oh my gosh, Julian, the goats are trapped. And I was like, no, it's probably just a silly poem. They threw in boat just to make it rhyme with goat. They're actually like part of the conspiracy. But now I'm really starting to think, because at first I was like, oh, this doesn't chronologically make sense that the goats would leave after the messages in a bottle started. But then we think back to that word bod. Now, the word bod obviously implies sheep. Bod. Because sheep wouldn't be able to say bad if they were like speaking English. And we heard that the new animals were similar to the animals that were already trapped. So if the new animals that were trapped originally were sheep, and the animals that showed up looked similar, well, goats look very similar to sheep, but they're a little weird. And it would make sense. If the goats were all alone wandering around in a boat, then the Phantoms might have picked them up and then put them on the ship. Or maybe the goats came by and they fought the Phantoms to try and get the sheep, and then the Phantoms captured one or two of them. Now, this is further backed up by the fact that these messages in a bottle seem to be wrapping up. At first, Animal Jam was releasing them every other day, then it was like once every 3 days, then it was like once every 4 days, and now it's like once every 5, 6, 4, 5. It's like, it's just getting completely random. They're just kind of like stretching it out, which makes me feel like it's coming to an end. And it's been almost 2 months since these things started. I mean, it was what, like October 21st when the first ones came out? It's been a long time, and Animal Jam was probably thinking about wrapping them up. Plus, we just heard that there was going to be a new animal soon, so it would make sense that Animal Jam stretches it out just long enough until we get the new animal. Now, it's probably going to be 2 update cycles, or 4 weeks before we get the new animal, because Animal Jam just released the OMG, a new animal, thing. And then normally they say, oh, this is the new animal, and then they release the new animal. So it will probably be 4 weeks, and that makes sense, because it gives us about 5 or 6 new messages in a bottle before we reach that date, if Animal Jam continues to release the messages in a bottle at the rate that they've been releasing them at like 5 to 7 days apart. And furthermore, it's even more backed up by Animal Jam HQ itself on the Daily Explorer in the comments. This isn't something someone anonymously sent me, so I can't give them credit, unfortunately, but someone found this comment on the Daily Explorer. This person asked, Dear AJ, what will the new pet be? And they answered something like, we can't tell you, but we promise it won't be bod. Now, at first people will be like, oh, Julian, that means the new pet is going to be the sheep. Oh, it doesn't mean the new animal is going to be the sheep. But I mean, when you really think about it, almost all the pets in the game, with the exception of like the crazy ones like the ladybug and the mantis, are based off of actual animals in the game. It's not like Animal Jam was like, we should release a pet snow leopard. We should release a pet Arctic wolf. Out of nowhere. They released them because they were based off of animals that were already in the game. So if the new pet is going to be pet sheep, it would be very likely that Animal Jam releases a sheep itself into the game. So that is why I think the new animal will be a sheep, and why I think the sheep themselves are the ones who are trapped and are sending messages, and that it is the goats who are the new prisoner who have showed up and are helping the sheep escape. And hopefully, when they do escape, we get to play as them, because in the end, that's what matters. So anyways, Beans, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. If you watched this far, comment sheep bean. Bye.